Good afternoon to you. Mark Sabbath, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Monday, July 30th, 2018. Hope you survived the weekend. More rain, heavy rain, ridiculous rain here at the home office in Wilmington, North Carolina. Woke up again this morning to the sound of thunder and heavy rain. The mushrooms are in great abundance. The mold and fungus and whatever is running rampant. It's just crazy out there. Anyhow, so my voice sounds a little weak because of being awoken too early once again, and probably from all the mold and whatever in the atmosphere. Nevertheless, let's talk tropics here. This is the climatological look at the normal distribution of things, or the average. What's normal anyway, right? And you can see that the peak of the season in September, where are we? Well, we are right here at the end of July, where things are normally very quiet, and we begin this gradual but very steady ramp up, and then it kind of levels off. And then after this magic date here, at least I refer to it as such, of August 20th, things really start to take off normally, or in an average season, I guess you would say. And will it be the same this year? Well, we will just have to wait and see. So the point of this is everything up to now usually is very, very quiet, and you start to increase the probabilities of development rather dramatically, especially from August 20th on. And then there is about, until mid-October, this roughly 6-week window when we would expect several hurricanes to develop in an average season, maybe 4 or 5 more from whatever we saw in June and July. So we shall see if that is the case this year. Looking at the Southern Oscillation Index, remarkable. I thought we were going to be in an El Nino, and we're not. And the SOI numbers are up, 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 up. We will end the month of July in positive territory, and the contributor today, if I can say it, almost 5, and the 90-day is almost 0, statistically speaking, and the 30-day is now, up. Everything's up. Too bad this is not my stock portfolio, for which I actually don't have, but story for another day. That would be nice if it was up, 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 up with your stocks like that. But this means that, and this is just one part of the overall big picture, that the pressure pattern is not one that is conducive to strong westerly wind bursts across the equatorial Pacific. And if we look at the subsurface chart, you can see, look at this, normal here, normal in here, a little area of normal here, or average. I really need to just toss the word normal out. Let's see if I can do that. Just whoop, pop it out of my head. Average. Below average, starting to show up here in the subsurface. And overall, this just seems to be all this warm pool, fracturing and starting to dissipate like a hairdryer would with the steam on a mirror. You get out of the shower and the bathroom's all steamed up, especially if you do that in the wintertime when you try to crank it up even more than normal, and you put the hairdryer on. That's what this looks like. Like, this is eroding, this is eroding. So the chances of El Nino at all seem to be going down just by looking out the window, so to speak. Forget the models, forget the predictions. What's happening in front of us? And, this is part of it, the SOI. And then you look at the subsurface, and there's really not that much warmth coming from the western Pacific. No real drivers from the west here to push this, what we call westerly wind bursts. So that's going to be really interesting to see as we get into August what some of the prognostications are, considering not much is happening in front of us. All right, so looking at the surface now, the anomaly chart updating today from the NOAA NESDIS. Now, this background data goes back from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s, roughly. And that's kind of weird. That's their data set. I did look that up. They omitted, I think, 1991 and 1992 because there was atmospheric perturbation of incoming solar radiation. That is a very fancy way of saying a volcano erupted in 1991 in the Philippines, Mount Pinatubo, and the ash kind of like a nuclear winter, ugh, but it's true, blocked out some sun, and so they tossed those years out. They considered those themselves anomalies. So this chart is based on pre-positive AMO time period. In other words, the base data, I finally just looked it up, the base data only goes through about the mid-1990s. I think it ends in 93 or 94, something like that. And anyway, so there are some that say that it doesn't take into account the warm period of the Atlantic for the last 25 years or so. So that's kind of strange, but nevertheless, here we are. It updated today. I mean, generally it seems to match up with what's out there. You know, when we saw a very, very warm Atlantic right off of my coast, hold on, grab some water. I'm telling you, the spores, molds, and funguses are after me. I'm not sick. I don't have a sore throat. There's something in the air. Trillions of mold spores. Just real quick, back earlier in July when the water temperatures off of my coast were in the upper 80s, this was all this color here. It was like all red, and it just seemed to verify. So whatever. Main development region, cooler than it has been in a long time, no doubt about it. Gulf of Mexico, warmer overall than it should be, and the far subtropical North Atlantic, definitely warmer. East Coast, off the mid-Atlantic anyway, calmed, cooled down just a little bit. I'm just having trouble today. No signs of any El Nino here. You know, a little bit warmer than it should be, but otherwise, you know, everything seems to be in balance. Maybe that's why we're not having much activity. I mean, you don't see any area except, I think the only area that really jumps out is this. Other than that, nothing's really eye-popping in terms of significantly above the long-term average. So this is another look. This is the Reynolds method, and this is just a weekly average. See right there, Reynolds Weekly Sea Surface Temperature Anomaly, developed by Dr. Richard Reynolds, National Hurricane Center. And you can clearly see this large isotherm here, the extent of it anyway. Isotherm is a line of equal temperature. Everything inside of this is colder than average by a pretty good clip. So, you know, this is probably going to be shut down for the most part. But, you know, still, the water temperatures north of 10 degrees here, latitude, are 26 Celsius or higher. So it's not like, and I've said this before, you know, water temperatures out here are 55 degrees or something. So just because it's colder than average doesn't mean it's cold. Please don't be fooled into thinking that. And there you go. This proves my point. I like that. So you go switch to this, see if I can get them to match up. Nope, they don't. Whatever. So look, there's the 26 degrees Celsius isotherm right there. And that's the magic number, 26C. Did I get it right, or is it over here? I think that's about right. Something like that. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe it's that one. Either way, this is what matters the most. And as you can see, you know, it runs along here. So it's just a little bit north of 10 degrees latitude. And it's only late July. I mean, give this another 3 weeks, and the 26C isotherm will probably be up here and stretch out like that. And the Atlantic will be plenty warm. I mean, it just needs to be 26 degrees Celsius. If it's 2 degrees above normal or 2 degrees below normal or average, but it's still within that 26C, what difference does it make? And there's just so much emphasis placed on that. There are other factors, you know, shear, dry air, moisture, which is related, of course, to dry air, Saharan air layer, you know, pre-existing disturbances, all these other things. But basically, once you get west of 50 degrees longitude and south of 40 latitude, everybody, this is where we all live. This is it. This is where it matters. Yeah, there's some people on the Cape Verde Islands, the Cabo Verde Islands, but they probably don't have to worry too much about it this year. Looking in the Gulf of Mexico, I like this particular chart. It's a little variation from what I normally show. This has contours drawn in, so we can clearly define what's what just a little bit better. And if we zoom in and we look, yep, those are 31 Celsius little islands. I mean, dude, 31 degrees Celsius. And down in the Florida Bay area, 31 Celsius. There's a 32 Celsius. We're talking about close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit at the surface. Most of the Gulf of Mexico is 30 degrees Celsius or higher. It sure is. Good area over here, and then right up here in the Big Bend area, all very, very warm. So I think, more concerned about the Gulf than I am anywhere else, just because of how warm it is. And there could just be, and this is just a hypothetical, there could just be one hurricane for the rest of the season, and if it's in the Gulf under right conditions, this is very, very untapped fuel, and we're talking easily could support intense hurricanes, all other things being favorable. So I don't have any evidence that something bad's coming. I'm just saying, come on, you look at that, and that's hurricane bait, no question about it. Now we just have to see if something comes along. Actual sea surface temperatures off the mid-Atlantic, again, probably owed to all this disturbed weather we've seen over here. Plenty of fresh water draining out of the rivers into the Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds, for example. All of the water temperatures in here back in the earlier part of the month were 30 Celsius, and now it's 26. We're talking about 27, 26. We're talking about a 3 to 4 degrees Celsius drop. And that's probably all due to this nasty weather that we've seen, flooding on the Outer Banks. And we're not talking storm surge. This is all fresh water. Wilmington is just way above the long-term average for rainfall. Trust me. But it's interesting because my yard, it rains and it fills up, in some of the areas, and it drains away. I'm telling you, you could probably drop 30 inches of rain here, and my yard can handle it. Knock on plastic. My plastic desk. So really no big changes or surprises or anything worrisome about sea surface temperatures along the coast here. I wish they were a little warmer. I went to the beach last evening with the kids. 81 degrees Fahrenheit. And I know you're going to be like, from New Jersey and Long Island, like, come on, man. 81, we'd take that. 85, that's my kind of, I like that. And that's what it was a few weeks ago. And then Hurricane Chris came and screwed up the pattern. Ever since Chris, the pattern has just been blah. Anyway, look at this. The Saharan air, more north. Little by little, things are changing. Less dry air. It's still there, but there's less of it. Look, that's what it says right there. Less. And over here is more. The University of Wisconsin people are not dumb, and they label this exactly as it should be. There's less. What's less is the yellows and whatever, and look, it's mostly less. I like that. Simple. So we'll monitor this. Notice Africa, I think the word is a dearth. I got to look that up, make sure I used it properly. A dearth of tropical waves. DEARTH or something like that, meaning that there's hardly any. I think I used it correctly. Oh yeah, what's happening out there? Nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing for the next 2 days, nothing for the next 5 days. And in the Eastern Pacific, a couple of somethings. 50% going to head west. 30%. This one has my attention a little more because the GFS has been monkeying around with the idea that this tries to come up close to this area. I don't see enough evidence to worry about it just yet, but it's finally something. And I only say that in terms of temporal significance, meaning time, not, I want something to hit Mexico. I'm saying over the last few weeks, everything's been out here. Now we're seeing something over here. So I don't want it to sound like, finally, something's going to, be impactful. No, that's not what we're saying at all. But anyway, here it is. We'll watch it. Baja, mainland Mexico. Just keep an eye on it, making you aware of it. 30%, that's pretty low. I think it's going to be more like a week out before we see anything develop with that system, and we'll take a look at it closer in just a moment. First of all, the wide shot of the Atlantic, and you can see a whole lot of nothing. Now, this is interesting. Tropical wave is coming off. Fairly low latitude. Water temperature is definitely warm enough. There is some spin associated with it. So we'll see. None of the models really do much with it. The rest of the Atlantic Basin, very quiet. Here's the plume of moisture that just continues around the periphery of the subtropical ridge, and a little bit of troughing over here. Very, very annoying. What we need to happen is for the Bermuda high to build west and either kick the trough out completely, or at least put the mean position, the average position of it, farther to the west. That would be fine with me. Looking at the eastern Pacific, your diurnal monsoon action up here, kind of off the frame there. Nothing, don't worry about this. Probably not going to do much here either as this goes out. But then over here, might develop over time, and depending on if it ever develops, and then the steering pattern may be something to watch for the Baja, but I'm not too concerned about it just yet. Looking at the Atlantic Basin, first just to get you familiar with what's what, west coast of Africa, the energy associated with that tropical wave, east coast of North America over here, and Central America, South America. All right, you got your bearings? Good. Now let's drop the telestration and put this into motion. This is the next 7 days. There's our subtropical ridge. There's the stupid trough that won't leave. Finally, it looks like, hopefully after about 3 days or so, the Bermuda high does shift westward enough, as you can see there, that the heights build farther to the west, and we can finally kick out this awful, awful pattern for the Carolinas. And you notice, too, the energy out here just dissipates. When you have colder water temperatures and not much instability, I guess that's to be expected. So I would say that over the next week to 10 days, probably not going to have any development. And I am thinking that, you might have one or two that comes out of here. I mean, why not, right? It's not just completely shut down. But a big focus of my attention will be back over here. And this is common sense in a season like we're looking at. Most of the warmer water resides back over here compared to average. And as we progress through August and September, I don't know, I got a feeling that the Gulf of Mexico will be the place to watch. Maybe it's just who knows. I don't have much to go on except what we're looking at and how hostile things are in the eastern Atlantic. Naturally, we would look and see where the warmer water is, and it's right in here. So who knows? Maybe I'm just wrong. Hopefully for you guys, I am. And we'll be able to monitor it, of course, as time goes on. In the eastern Pacific, again, a week out, not much in the main development region of the East Pac, nothing in the central Pacific. There's Hawaii, some typhoon action every once in a while. But like I said, overall, it's like the globe, tropical cyclone-wise, it's good. I'm good. I'm not going to develop anything of any intense magnitude for the time being. That's what it feels like. I mean, even notice here at the end of the run, these systems off of Mexico are really not that robust. And we'll see. We're talking a ways out, a week out in time. There they are. It's like, they finally get going. So there you go. Not much going on. It's kind of just a run-of-the-mill end of July day, in time period. August normally is the ramping up time, but, I'm going to just show you this one more time. We live in a world where the watch pot never boils is never more pertinent than now, because we have 5-minute satellite data, 1-minute satellite data, whatever. And we can watch this stuff hourly down to minutely, to coin a phrase. And so waiting for activity to develop, this is going to seem like an eternity from August 1st to September 10th. Not that anybody's wishing for death and destruction. I get that. Of course not. But if you're looking for hurricane activity to happen, just to track it or what have you, it's going to be a while. And then what happens during the peak time, we shall see. Could be an active September. You never know. Or nothing at all. That's a possibility as well. And I only mean that from a mathematical perspective. It is possible that we don't have any more hurricanes to develop. It's not likely, but it's a mathematical, it's a non-zero chance that happens. But with the absence of El Nino and the fact that the western basin is pretty warm, I think it'll be a pretty active September, maybe something by the end of August as well. So between now and then, what are we going to do? Well, each day we'll take a look at what's happening. Tidbits here and there, to borrow from Tropical Tidbits, Levi's site. That's what it's all about, right? Little pieces of information that'll help you, and we'll keep marching forward towards the eventual peak of the season. All right, so that's it. Have a great rest of your Monday. I'll be around all week with updates here and there, and we'll see what shakes loose. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I do appreciate it. We shall talk again some more tomorrow.